And so I want to start with really one of my favorite communities, and that is when Chippenham and Johnston-Willis had a good time dressing up in costume, and yes, that is Dennis. Somebody did ask. They said, oh, who's that in yellow? That happened to be Dennis. But this is certainly a big part of my community, and I think after the presentations today, I'm going to work on other hobbies so that I can get out and probably take on a whole new opportunity. So when we talk about community, essentially it's a group of people, and generally those people have similar interests. They generally live in the same neighborhood or in the same city or in the same village. And there's even, this is how important community is. I mean, there's a sitcom now on NBC called Community, and there is a cast of characters that have been described as self-centered, with many personality flaws, but somehow through their membership at the Greendale Community College have created this club and bond and has become what they know is their community. So why did Tim talk about community? Well, Chippenham and Johnston-Willis exist for the whole purpose of serving our community. It makes good business sense, and it also makes good personal sense, bringing people together who desire to give back and join forces to make our community stronger. And when I speak to community, it can also be within the walls of this hospital and outside of this hospital. And just to refer to our founding father with HCA, he is quoted through the Dr. Frist humanitarian recognition as be happy in your community, be active. There is so much to do in this world and to do it in so many different ways. I bring this up, philanthropy, just because, again, I think it is important because we do a lot of this individually. We also do this organizationally. And that is really our active efforts to promote human welfare. And not just that, but it is giving time and money in some cases to help make life a better place for so many people. So we definitely do a lot of that at Chippenham and Johnston-Willis, and I know you all do that personally as well. So this is just a quote from Martin Luther King that says, sometimes when we do a lot of philanthropy, we have to understand what's the underlying cause for us to give that much time and money. And sometimes when we dig deeper into some of these issues, we can divert our energies like in an appropriate way. Successful businesses recognize the importance of community because our employees live in the community that we serve. Additionally, the citizens that are in our community become who we hire. We also have our future workforce that is educated in our communities. So we have an interest in making sure that the educational process is in fact meeting the needs of us in the future as employers. The citizens become our customers, so those people in our community could become patients, and so we need to be cognizant of that as well. Tax-paying businesses like HCA is a great source of revenue for localities, and for also our state. And successful businesses mean a higher rate of employment and often a higher rate of health insurance being offered to their employees. And the quality of life in a community is what really attracts and retains residents. And in turn, businesses then become very ability to thrive and survive. So those are a lot of the reasons why it's really smart to be community-minded. I just wanted to take a business as an example, and I've mentioned what Chippenham and Johnston-Willis do, but also this is another great example where the Richmond TimesDispatch over the last many years, due to technology, has had nothing but declining circulations in their newspapers. So this is a leader, Tom Silvestri, the president and the publisher, who has done a lot around innovation. And one of the things that he does is he holds public forums. So yesterday you may have seen in the newspaper, although not many people get it, I still do, about the 50th public forum in which Tom Silvestri has facilitated. Well, why that's important is that it's open to the public, it's free, he doesn't make money doing this, but he gets to have civil conversations with people on topical issues that not just affect our VA or Richmond, but also our whole Commonwealth. So topics that may be around what are we doing in the mental health policy arena? Is it time to accept same-sex marriage? Whatever the topic is, it's topical, it's controversial, and he facilitates civil conversations around these things. So keep an eye on those. Those are all really fantastic. Specifically around some of the benefits that our hospital does, I wanted to just highlight some of those great things. There's a whole plethora of those things that we do. But essentially, as you know, our real purpose is to improve life. We spend about, we provide $200 million annually in uncompensated care at Chippenham and Johnston-Willis. So that's certainly an amazing and impressive community benefit. HCA in the Commonwealth of Virginia spent $71 million in taxes. And that's a lot of money when localities need revenue. So they tend to really love HCA and what we do for the local government and their income, which is through taxation. Many employees and many leaders at our hospital serve on a lot of community boards, community organizations. They give time in many ways to investing in the community. One of our partnerships has been with Crossover Clinic, where we provide care, services, money, and in-kind ancillaries to the Crossover Clinic, and they are very focused on taking care of the underserved population in our region. We've built a house for Habitat for Humanity, which was a lot of fun. We have a ton of school affiliations, so we are very committed to helping mentor and develop students in our respective fields. So again, very important to invest. We have 2 residents here in healthcare administration, so I think mentoring and helping to develop the future workforce is very critical to our industry along with others.
We appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. And fun things like Midlothian Day Parade. I mean, it's a good opportunity for some of our service lines to get together, create an old-fashioned float, go in this old-fashioned parade, and meet all the legislators and public officials, and then again, our neighbors and our community members. And then certainly the HCAK is another big event. We partner with the Sports Backers organization in town, whose mission is active RVA. So how do we get our communities moving and being more active? And here is certainly our part in contributing to that. Some of our other community things that we've done recently is we had 200 Boy Scouts here at Johnston-Willis, I think last November. We have an emergency department nurse, and she is very active in the Boy Scouts. And so we helped coordinate with her leadership 200 students here. They earned their Ready Man badge. And I have to point out, is this a laser? Yes. This is one of the 5 Kennedys. So Peter Kennedy's son. And then from the Thomas Johns Cancer Hospital, we have a couple of our superstars here, Susan Keene and Dr. Gonzalez, who brought a NASCAR driver in as part of the lung cancer awareness month. And then one of the things that we did through EAG, and here's our fearless leader here, Joyce, is the Greater Richmond Chamber, in partnership with the Valentine History Center and other organizations, decided that really in Richmond we need to connect all these great tourist and historical places throughout the city. So we were going to paint the Liberty Trail. We got the idea on an inner-city visit when we went to Boston, and they had a Freedom Trail. So this was our team representing HCA, and we painted with stencils throughout our designated part of the trail. And interestingly, when we did that, you don't see the Federal Reserve behind us, but the Federal Reserve saw this HCA team spray painting and called the police because they said, there are people doing graffiti out there. So I talked to the police and I'm like, no, this is really organized. I refer to Daniel Lettner because I got the opportunity to hear him a few weekends ago at the Richmond Forum. And he is a researcher with the National Geographic Society. And it was just a coincidence that this topic was coming up about the value of community, because some of his study is around health, longevity, and then really identifying what he calls blue zones, which are areas around the globe that have the highest index for happiness. So he's identified through research the 6 domains of happiness. And you'll see right in the beginning, community is very important. So where we live really makes a difference. Workplace, we've heard this through Gallup, but having a best friend at work really helps us with that sense of community and happiness. Our social life, the number of friends that we have, he says that we should have about 7 hours of socialization a day. So that's an area that I know most of us need to. And that could be through family in other ways, but that's what he found is that the happiest places, or the blue zones, have a higher percent of socialization. Financially, ideally, they have identified that a family of 4 would make $80,000 a year, and beyond that, the utility goes down. At home, 1 TV screen and only 45 minutes of TV a day. And then from a personal perspective, do you know your purpose, and are you putting your talents to work? So all these things are really community, but they're also relationship. So even introverts who generally get their energy from internal means versus socialization or being around crowds, their index of happiness goes up when they are in the presence of meaningful relationships. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. So again, just to reiterate, this is Daniel again. Science shows that where we live, not education, not wealth, not marital status, is the biggest controllable factor that determines our happiness. And so the question that we pose today is, what can businesses and individuals do to stack the deck to maximize happiness and the well-being in our communities? So just some thoughts. Get involved in the community, and according to Daniel, we'll all be happier. Some of those things that just popped in my mind, and some of the things that I learned from his presentation, were around faith, and there's a correlation to faith and happiness. Public forums, I mentioned getting engaged, giving voice, making a difference in your community. Richmond is a food town, and it was ironic that Jennifer chose to speak about that, and we have Dr. Schwartz speaking on food, and so Richmond has really come a long way in getting a lot of recognition in tourist books and other means about our food. The Shockout revitalization is something that I participated on. I did a lot when I was the chair of the Greater Richmond Chamber around the baseball stadium. Totally out of my skill set, but very, very interesting. Other things we've talked about, the mentoring programs. I did the principal for the day a couple of times, which was very interesting, gave me a perspective that I greatly appreciate that principals have in high schools. Very much I felt like it was like being an operator in a hospital where you're dealing with the leaking roof and the being locked out of the classrooms and behavioral things. Neighborhood associations, as you know, RVA has a huge creative class, so there's so many things to get involved in that way. We have a pretty decent music scene. It's getting better all the time, but our folk festival is a place I see Joyce and other people every year. And professional organizations, and I bring up the chamber, not because I like to talk about myself at all, really, but I was given an opportunity that was pretty transformational for me. And that was, I was asked by my then boss, Clay Franklin at the time, to join the Chesterfield Business Council, because it met here at Johnston-Willis and we needed to be present. And I went and I had no idea what they were talking about. They talked about transportation and education, road signs and taxation and VPOL and all these sorts of things. I had no idea. I was very much out of my comfort zone. Because for decades I've really only invested within my industry, healthcare industry, or my own personal, like critical care nursing or American College of Healthcare Executives, I had really invested my extracurricular time and energy around my industry or my own profession. So for the first time, I was really investing time and energy in learning about other industries, other businesses, and the challenges that they have. And it became just such an eye-opening experience. So through that, I became the chairperson then of the Chesterfield Business Council, which is a local arm of the Greater Richmond Chamber. And it just kept escalating. And then they asked me if I would be willing to go into the officer or leadership track of the chamber. I was very ambivalent to do that for a lot of reasons. One, I have a big job here. And secondly, I just felt like I was totally out of my league. But with a lot of encouragement and hospital support, I did do that. It was a 4-year commitment, and I certainly gained a lot of personal skills doing that, but professionally, what it did is just make me value how vested we are as an organization in what happens in our community. So whether it's public safety, whether it's innovation, how every industry is grappling with a boomer aging workforce. So what we need to do as a community to really attract and retain our young talent, our millennials. Everyone is struggling. Oh, we can't hire the millennials. They just care about themselves. They just have their face in the iPad. Well, that is the future. So how do we as an organization in every industry end up changing our mindset around the human resource front to attract these individuals that will be taking our place? So anyway, I got to meet with public leaders every month. I met with the mayor every month. I got to really learn and appreciate the hard work that our public officials and local governments need to endure. And it just totally engaged. I just really became more in love with the community that I've lived in because I didn't even know how awesome it was. So great experience, and that's me getting the gavel when I became chair from Tom Silvestri, and my gavel was this big, and his was that big. But some things for the female genders haven't changed. So this is the revitalization. This is one of the things I got to really engage in as the chair of the chamber, is this downtown Shockout development. I know Betsy, who lives in Churchill, doesn't love this, but the baseball diamond down in the bottom, a hotel, parking, retail, and again, these are things that was fun to learn about and certainly fun to facilitate discussions around for the city. So still not funded. And I do want to just give credit because we have such an amazing employee advisory group. And certainly it is led by Joyce, but all members have been so dynamic. They are our voice. They are creating an awesome community within our hospitals. And so I do want to give them the great credit that they deserve. And lastly is, I hope you love RVA as much as I do. And I've always been fond of where we live, but certainly have a greater appreciation because of the value I place in our community and all the great people trying to make a difference. So thank you.